Palm Beach, Florida. For tourists whose bank accounts boast a lot of commas, it's a gold-plated getaway. For anglers, its waters are as generous as any on the eastern seaboard. For game fish species, it's a beautiful place to die. Join us, friends, as we do battle with apex predators who have come to eat our little fishing show alive.
There you go. Here comes trouble.
The sea rules over both the past and present and defines the destiny of all life on Earth. It surrounds land from every angle, and it takes and gives as it pleases. Throughout the ages, humanity has used the sea for sport and sustenance. It's a deep, dark frontier, and there are untold fathoms left to explore. Palm Beach is the tale of two worlds. The wild of the ocean and the mild of everyday life coexist as neighbors. The fishing grounds are a short run from Sailfish Marina. The Gulf Stream can be seen from the penthouse.
Palm Beach is a pretty unique spot. The Gulf Stream comes closer here than any other spot on the East Coast, and we're really only fishing about a mile off the beach. We have nice, clear, warm Gulf Stream water that skirts our shoreline, so we get some really nice edges that form up with some current lines. As you get offshore to about 100 feet, the continental shelf drops off really quick, so we have a very quick drop-off that's close to the shoreline, so we really don't have to run very far. Some of our best fishing is straight out the inlet, about a mile, mile and a half. It's a pretty unique spot with the closeness and the variety of fish that we catch here. We're at the beginning of the mahi starting to migrate. We'll start seeing more of those as the water warms up. Our springtime is usually a very good run of dolphin here.
Yeah, it looks like something tried to eat him. A little wound on the head. He's just swimming towards us. Little mahi. Mahi mania. Sit, sit. It's probably 4 months old. Little dolphin. See you, buddy.
You know, typically during the course of the year, there's always some kingfish around. As we get more into this spring run, we start seeing some really huge ones. We'll consistently catch kings over 40 pounds. Sometimes the bigger ones are a little bit offshore of the schools of smaller ones, and we can target them using bigger baits and fishing a little bit deeper on some of the spots.
$10 bait, 5-pound king.
It's hard when you're buying the goggle eyes and they're $10 a piece, and you go through a dozen or two just with small kings, cutting them in half. But at the same token, that's the area where the sailfish are and the other stuff that we're trying to catch. So it's important to go fishing and have enough bait with you so that you can weed through the little fish and wait for the bigger fish to bite.
Lip hook king.
But as recreational anglers in Florida know all too well, a fish by the boat ain't always a caught fish.
You know, some of the sharks are great and you're not really seeing huge numbers, but a few of the species we're really starting to see an impact. The sharks have learned to follow the boats around and eat their fish. There's some days you're catching less than half the fish that you hook on a regular basis, and it is becoming a problem for the fishermen to be able to go to some of these spots that have traditionally always held huge numbers of fish. Now the sharks are so bad you can't even fish in some of these spots.
For now, we're going to stick with the original game plan, kite fishing for sailfish. But that requires cooperation from the local residents. Are we optimistic? To be continued. Palm Beach lies at the heart of Sailfish Alley, the stretch of Atlantic from Miami Beach north to Fort Pierce, where a solid front and winter whitecaps create ideal sailfishing conditions.
The sailfish seem to be triggered when we get a little bit of a cold front and some north wind. We had some good kite fishing conditions with some northwest and north wind. That typically is wind against the tide. The Gulf Stream goes from the south to the north, and then the wind blowing from the north to the south creates a little bit of a weather pattern where your wind against the tide, it builds a little bit more of a swell, and it seems to get the fish more active with the seas a little bit choppier. There's a little more oxygen in the water. It really turns on some of the pelagics, especially the sailfish.
In Costa Rica, Guatemala, and Panama, the three countries that put up the biggest sailfish numbers worldwide, they're traditionally caught by trolling rigged deadbaits or lures. But in South Florida, anglers have developed a more refined, clever method: kite fishing.
When I'm fishing on my charter boat, a lot of times it's just me. I don't have a mate on the boat, so I'll usually put a couple flat lines out off one side of the boat, and that's the first thing I start with. And then I'll put the kite off the other side once I get a few rods in the water. A lot of times when the fish are coming from the north, moving south, they'll eat the flat lines first. So we do get a lot of spinning rod bites. That's the first bait that they're gonna swim into. All right, sail on. Got a couple more baits out here, see if we can get another one on too. They ate the flat line, didn't really do much. I think the bait was probably down the hatch because it didn't come up jumping like crazy, but. Oh, big shark chasing him. See the shark there? Catch a lot of fish in the 30 or 40 pound range here, but this is double that. Doesn't want to cooperate. I'm not seeing the shark right now, so I'm gonna hang on to him here for a second. Yep, there he goes. All right. All right, here's the tricky part. So just bringing a balloon with us today. The wind's supposed to drop out in a little while, and the balloon just helps compensate for the weight of the kite and the clips when there's not enough wind to hold the kite up. So it stabilizes it a little more, and it's really nice when you're fighting fish wheeling around. You don't have to worry about the kite falling out of the sky. We got enough wind to fly the kite as is right now, but a little bit later it's supposed to drop out, so it's better to have and not want than to want and not have. So right now we got 5 rods out. We're just waiting to see what the current's doing here. So we got 3 off the kite. The long one's got wire. It's been some big kingfish and wahoo around. We're kind of lightening things up a little bit because the wind's dropping out. So we may have to put a little bit smaller baits on here to keep everything up on the surface. I've got most of my baits back hooked right now, so I can keep them like right up on top. You could just barely see the bait splashing. That way his head's in the water, he's still breathing, but all the leader's out of the water. Sail.
Wasn't jumping in the beginning, but getting some good jumps now.
All right, good job.
All right, goodbye. Have a good day. All right.
Some of the bull sharks that we're catching here are resident fish. They come into the intercoastal, that's where they pup and have their babies. A lot of times you pull up, before you even put a bait in the water, you look over the side of the boat and there's 5 or 6 sharks underneath you. So these sharks have really adapted to learn that, you know, they don't really have to hunt down fish on their own. They can just follow boats around and get a free meal.
Stay with us, friends, as we troubleshoot this shark situation. It appears that the only way out is through. Shark conservation efforts have been in action for more than a decade now, and rightfully so. Shark finning practices have decimated their populations.
Here comes trouble.
An estimated 78 million were killed per year from 2012 to 2019. But there's a flip side to that coin. Shark encounters have become increasingly frequent for recreational anglers. And ground zero is right here.
The shark problem has really become a thing for the fishermen. Used to be a big commercial shark fishery out of here, and that's kind of been shut down. And in the last 10 years, we've really seen a jump in the shark population. We have a ton of bull sharks, sandbar sharks. It's a really fine line. It's a touchy subject. I think there needs to be some more research done on the actual numbers of sharks that are around. But I mean, there's days it's in the hundreds of bull sharks in small areas. There is a chance that there could be a little too much conservation and the numbers could explode into a bad situation.
So, new game plan. Instead of fishing around them, we'll fish for them. Except in this game, jacks beat kings.
The sharks love eating those. As far as a free swimming jack, it's very difficult for a shark to catch them, but they do eat them for sure. We caught a couple at the dock before we went out, so we would have a couple baits.
Yep, here we go. That quick. Get on top of them a little bit. Full moon in May, we get a massive migration of false albacores. They call them up north. Down here, where it's bonita. And there he is, I can see him. Well, not a monster, but a couple 100-pounder. Sometimes there'll be Kobe on them, so we always have the jig ready to go.
I think that the seasons in general have changed up a little bit with some weather patterns and different water temperatures. And fishing is really just being adaptable and changing to the conditions that are thrown at you.
That was a fat one. Looks like he's been eating some fish out here. Probably has a couple of my snappers in his stomach. getting a nibble.
We were using bigger tackle as well. The survivability of the sharks. You want to catch the shark quick, get it up to the boat, and cut it loose.
There you go. Another couple 100-pounder. Looks like he's got somebody else's hook in his bottom jaw. See ya. All right, pretty nice bull shark. About a 200-pounder.
Shark species abound in Palm Beach, especially when the waters are chummed up proper. The great hammerhead shark. Like its cousin, the bull, it's an open ocean predator and resident of Florida on both the Gulf and Atlantic side. The largest among them reach 1,000 pounds. Armed and dangerous, hammerheads love a good killing spree. In the Florida Keys, hammerheads terrorizing and tearing apart tarpon has become a common sight.
I grew up in New Jersey at a young age. Like, shark fishing was just the craze. I've always loved sharks. We catch some huge hammerheads around here. They feed in along the beach. We see some giant fish in there eating other sharks and some other species. Most of the hammerheads that we saw were great hammerheads. We get some scalloped hammerheads out here as well. They kind of all mix in the same area, eating the same kind of stuff. But anytime we're around the kingfish schools, you're going to see some hammerheads. They just love eating kingfish.
So that's what we got from that hammerhead. Pretty common occurrence out here, especially when the kings are around. A lot of hammerheads, which that's the one that got this. A lot of bull sharks and sandbar sharks. Everybody kind of hangs with the schools and they follow boats around, wait for us to hook a fish, and then they get a free lunch or free dinner. You could see before when they were swarming around the bait. I mean, it's a shark that can make a turn so sharp, I think they could bite their own tail off. When they're on the kite baits, they just get in such a tight circle. It's really wild how flexible they are. A lot of times you'll see scalloped hammerheads out here. They're super common. All the ones that we've seen today were all great hammerheads. And they get big, well over 1,000 pounds and over 15 feet long.
The hammerheads love the kite baits. Typically every day you're kite fishing, you have a hammerhead come into the spread. And it's a really wild fish because the mouth is underneath that giant hammer, so it's really hard for them to get their head in position. And it's a shark that definitely has a temper. You know, when you pull the bait away from him, you just see him get more fired up and more fired up.
Beauty and the Beast. Glitz and gristle. Sure, you can gold plate the chandeliers and put a gate in front of your gate, but just beyond the penthouse window lies the raw power of the wild. Explore at your own risk.